How we doing? How we doing? Let me make sure we're live. I gotta pull it up. Give me a second. I'm sure we are live, and I'm sure you're all wondering who this is. Cool. We are live. Let me go ahead and tag everyone. All right. Let's pull this up. Welcome, welcome, welcome. If you are here, I'd love to hear where you're operating out of. I know we do this all the time. Those of you that are watching again, you know how this goes. I want to hear from you. Go ahead and tap in on the comments below. I want to hear who is in the room. We are in the Facebook group chat. Let me get some people here. I have some people texting me. Welcome, everybody. I'll do a little mini introduction and then I'll dive into it. But again, if you're here, I want to know where you're from. I want to know where you're operating out of. I want to know how many doors you're operating. For those of you who already know me, you know my name is Lame. For those of you that don't, I am a owner. I'm an operator. I love the Airbnb space. But you guys see my face in this group chat, me and Kyle, who is my partner. I have John Davis, who helps navigate a lot of this, but essentially I run a 200 plus door portfolio of short-term rentals. I am just like a lot of you guys, where I started in the arbitrage management game. I now buy most of what we essentially operate now of that portfolio. I own about 70% of it. And so a lot of my background is not just in the acquisition space, but also in the operation space, because we are vertically integrated. So we essentially do everything from the management to the revenue management to the asset management to the cleaning. Cleaners are ours, handymen. And so we have built this group. We do these calls to essentially bring to you guys in real time some of the software that we use, some of the tips, tricks, to hopefully allow you guys to be able to use this in your resources. Josh, what's up? Josh and Shannon are here, living in Utah. Just getting started. Love it, brother. What part of Utah? I'm in American Fork. I love it. I love it. I saw that you studied at Weber State. I am a Wildcat, brother. So it's always good to see other Wildcats in the room, my man. So welcome, welcome. Again, if you're here, I just would love to hear from you. Go ahead and post where you're operating out of from, and also how many doors you're operating. I'm super stoked about today's call. We've done up to this point, we talked about tips and tricks to be able to help you maximize your short-term rental, your Airbnb listing. We went through photos, different things to manipulate SEO. I think our last call, a lot of people asked about the acquisition strategy, because I buy a lot of homes creatively, meaning you do not need a down payment. You don't need credit, taxes, all that riffraff. If you guys haven't seen that one, all of these are recorded and posted here. I did that one last week. We're going to get back to the tactical, right? So today I'm going to go over my software stack with you guys to give you guys an idea of some of the things that we use, right, in our day-to-day for certain parts of our business operationally, right? Everything from revenue management to our cleaning management to our maintenance management and our messaging. I'm not going to go over PMSs because I feel like everybody does that, and there's a lot of PMSs out there. I'm going to go over specific niche, a lot of softwares that, frankly, some people don't even use because they don't know it's available. And so that's like some of the things that I'm going to do to bring value to you guys. And I want to pull up one more thing, because now that I'm thinking about it, I'm also going to share with you guys our internal, this is our organic operation system, to be able to share with you guys how we go over the operation side of what we do. And so, which is monday.com. And so that's an internal organic system that we use that is super valuable, can be super valuable to people on this call. So without further ado, again, my name is Lama Kinney, currently own and operate 200 properties plus, all short-term rentals. we're going to be doing a deep dive into my software stack of what we use in our portfolio. So I'm going to go and share my screen. Here. Again, if you're here, I want to hear from you. Go ahead and leave comments. Don't feel like there's no stupid questions here. I would love to hear comments, contributions, anything you guys have I want to help with. Make sure you drop it in the comments below and we engage. Okay. Window. All right. So this one is very familiar to some of you. A lot of you may use this or a similar software, but this is Price Labs. What Price Labs is, there's a few brothers and sister companies. I know there's Wheelhouse. I know there's RevPar. There's Streamline. These are all of these. They're all essentially the same thing. They're softwares that help automate your pricing. Okay. Pricing is one of those things that if not done right, a lot of times you're leaving money on the table. And the reason why Price Labs is important is because it can help you streamline about, I'd say 70 to 80% of best practices when it comes to managing your revenue and your calendar management of your properties, right? So for example, I have a property popped up here. Automatically, I can see on the right, it gives me a reference point of my property relative to its competition. So there's adjusted occupancy in the last 7 days. My listing occupancy 71%, market 70. So I'm right on par, right? This is occupancy within the next 30, within the next 60. So it gives me a real-time comparison of how my property is doing relative to market, right? So that's the first thing it does. The second thing that it does, well, really there's a million things it does, but that's the first thing that I would go over that's important. The second thing it does, and this is being recorded so you guys can come back to this, but if you guys can see, these are all of our account level and minimum stay settings. These are the nitty-gritty of our pricing strategy of essentially how to maximize revenue. I literally could go over an entire training on just this, but I'm not going to. But this gives you guys a snapshot of just the amount of detail that you can go into when it comes to managing your revenue and calendar management. I have orphan days in here. What orphan days are, let's say, these are considered orphan days. These are 3 days of the week that are not booked because you have a 5-day booking here and then you have a 3-day after this, right? So these orphan days oftentimes are money left on the table that if you don't have an automated software in place to give discounts of said orphan days, a lot of times you're leaving easy money on the table, right? And as you can see, I have orphan day settings. I have adjacent days before an unavailable night. So these are days like last minute bookings I'm trying to get. These are weekdays. And then I have essentially a bunch of different little settings that are set specifically to manage and maximize revenue. Guys, this is a science. If you are currently, which a lot of you guys probably are, because it's what I did when I first started, if you're just doing your own revenue management, you're probably leaving 10 to 15 minimum percent of revenue on the table just by not utilizing this software to be able to help you with best practices. A lot of these settings can be recommended, but what I will tell you, and this brings me back to the first thing that I said at the very beginning, Price Labs only does 70%, or any of these other softwares that do revenue management, they only do 70%. There is a 30% margin in there that should be accounted for that is manual. So this isn't a set it, forget it. It can be. And for those that are, it's helping you. It's better than you just not doing anything at all. However, that last 30% is where a lot of income is created. And that's manual by way of hiring at that point a software or a revenue management company. So that's companies that essentially will manage this day to day for you. So not only will they manage all these rule sets and the software itself to make sure that it's automated properly, but they'll actually go in and look at the data and adjust it like literally daily or weekly so that you're getting eyes on it in real time, because revenue management is a fluid thing in this industry. You have to make sure you understand it properly and that you are fluid with it, with the right resources and people to make sure you're maximizing revenue. If you guys have any questions along the way, don't hesitate to please leave them in the comments, especially as we're going over softwares and things like that. And I'll do my best to make sure that I'm keeping up with them. But this is what I use for revenue management. The next one, okay, is Breezeway, okay? So this is a platform that helps me automate all of the cleaning and maintenance found within my property, okay? So as you can see on our dashboard, we can see how many cleans are due today, how many are finished, in progress, have not started, inspections, maintenance reports, and then total. So I can see just in a snapshot of things that need to be had. And what I love about this is I can click into a specific property, and this allows for me to see everything that has been done in the property, the activity in it, right? Everything from the maintenance reports, stained comforter, rug stain, all the normal stuff. But then when you look at some of these cleans, some of these completed cleans, let me see. Yep, standard clean, finished. It allows my cleaners to have essentially a system and a process to keep track of things such as pictures of it being damaged, of things being damaged, pictures before and after. And I'll be honest, I don't use this myself much because I operate the business at the very top, but I'm trying to find, I should have Josie come on here to find where the pictures are, because there are pictures that essentially a cleaner can come in here and manage, and you can see essentially how their clean was prior, how it was after and during, and it helps significantly when it comes to like, especially for air cover, for insurance claims and things like that, of having all of that information. So this is Breezeway. This is what we're using to manage our maintenance and our cleaning at a very, very high level. Let me try and play with this a little bit, because I do want to show you guys like our inspections lists as well as our cleans lists, because our cleans list has, every cleaner has essentially a list of things that they have to do when they are in the property. And by the way, when you're coming to do any of these, a lot of times whoever does it for you, like when you onboard to any of these, you're going to have a period in which they actually like go over how to use the property, and so, or how to use the software. Make sure you do those onboarding calls so you don't end up like me, where I'm just like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, I'm confused. But this is what we use to essentially streamline cleaning and maintenance. And again, each one of these softwares can be their own full-time training, where I could just literally sit here all day and if I was prepared and go through every system. But what I'm trying to do and give you guys again is the high-level softwares that we use for you to be able to learn and implement in your guys' businesses. So there's that. Breezeway. Again, any comments, contributions, questions, don't be afraid to leave them in the comments below. For those of you just joining us, we are going over my software stack. We went over Price Labs. Price Labs is utilized for revenue management. It automates about 70% of your revenue management. But then outside of that, there's a 30% margin of difference that can be created by hiring a revenue management company. But for the most part, if you don't have this, if you don't have something and you're using this, this is good to have. Second thing we went over is Breezeway. We use this for all our ops. So everything from maintenance to cleaning gives you an idea of the cleaning reports, inspections that need to be done, maintenance. It's all tracked here so that you can get an idea of high level things that are happening in your business as it pertains to that. And then I wanted to show you, now this is, we actually don't use this anymore. Full transparency. I don't use Hospitable anymore because at scale, it actually, we've hired out all of our guest communication overseas. So we have in real time people that are actively like, they're actively available to chat with guests like in real time. So we don't use this anymore. And we use our PMS like automation for messaging. But Hospitable specifically, I personally think is one of the best softwares for guest communication automations. Okay. If you're your own person and you're managing not just your only Airbnb, but anything from like 5 doors or less, this is going to save you a ton of time on automating your system and processes of communication. So they have a custom rule set for messaging specifically to where, for example, when people get a new booking inquiry, I can set these are little, I forget what they were, but they're like keywords that essentially will automatically take, for example, in this, the guest's first name for whoever it is that's booking so that it'll personalize certain things for it. So when somebody books, they get these right away. And this essentially is an automated message that based on these goes to all platforms for all hosts, for all properties, and it sends after new inquiry. Okay. And based on my Airbnb settings, I'm basically saying that on my Airbnb settings, I'm basically saying that a new inquiry only comes from people that are not pre-approved or do not have prior good bookings. And so I'm essentially utilizing Airbnb settings along with this to customize when people get messages and what messages and what in the message and what is the content of the message. So here, whenever there's an inquiry of somebody that's not confirmed or doesn't have guest reviews, I like to vet them out by asking them specific questions that help me understand and at least allow my VAs to then pick up the conversation to then determine why they're here and see if they're a good guest. Because we all know a bad guest costs you a lot more than opportunity cost of just letting your property sit there because you don't want a bad guest in it, right? So there's a fine line of maximizing occupancy while making sure you're still getting the best guest in there. Because max profitability, guys, is not at 100%. It's not. Typically, it's at 70 to 80% in our experience because you're serving the right guest avatar that isn't costing you extra money because they're a terrible guest, and you're getting max dollar at that price point and occupancy rate, meaning your rates are right where they need to be, right? And that's why collectively all these things matter, because I could drop these things to $1 a day, and is it going to book 100%, right? I could tank this entire calendar to be $50 a day, right? I could essentially set it to where instead of just having these weekends, I could get this 100% occupancy really easy, right? But that is not max profitability, because chances are the people that will stay at this property that are coming at that rate are going to be terrible guests. And so I'm trying to balance this gap of making sure I'm serving the right people while also having the systems in place to vet those people properly. If I have systems in place to also automate my revenue, right? And there's a lot of things like we literally had trash days. So we would remind for certain properties, this would go out every Thursday, 8 p.m. And it would essentially go from all platforms to all hosts, all properties, right? And this basically allows for us to get really specific in messaging them for certain common things, right? And you can turn them on and off. That's why I loved it, is because you can turn these things really on and off as you please, and you can customize them as much as you want. Now, again, you can see disconnected. We don't personally use this anymore because now I'd hired this out full-time. So now they're actually, my guests are speaking to a real person, no matter what time of the day. But if I'm first starting and I'm my own person, even one property, guest communication can get really crazy, right? And so you want to make sure you have automations in place to do that. Okay, so we've gone over Price Labs, revenue management, calendar management. We've gone over Breezeway, which is all maintenance, all cleaning. We've gone over Hospitable, which is essentially guest communication. It also is calendar synchronization. So you can sync all of your properties onto a single account and consolidate on single account. So that does exist for this. It's just a feature we don't care to use. I just like their messaging. And then the last one that I'm going to get you guys on, this one is more on the side of the acquisitions, but we use this a lot. This is our Minoan. And Minoan, for those of you guys who don't know, is a software or a company, you should say, I should say, that allows you to be able to purchase furniture at an extremely crazy discount. So for example, here's some orders. Let me see if I can get some bulk orders that we have. Our quotes. These are some quotes of properties that I just recently purchased that we're getting ready to go in, essentially, that we're getting ready to furnish ourselves. Let me find this lupine. This is the type of discounts you're getting from Minoan. Now, Minoan requires that you are a short-term rental operator, and additionally that you do have properties. But when you can utilize, and most of you should qualify for it, but when you can utilize this has literally saved me thousands of dollars just on a single one. Instead of 32 grand, it was 12 grand. And it's because of the discounts they give me on the corporate discounts. And mind you, these are places like Samsung, Spoonflower, like Wayfair. These are places that essentially are really good places. Now I'm giving you guys even more gas by showing you guys some of the things that we put in our properties, right? So the Arcade Man, like we're getting all the way down to plates, this, that, the other, different types of wallpaper, yada, yada, yada. But the discounts are crazy. This is 48% off, 65% off, 24% off. This is incredible when it comes to designing and setting up your property because of the amount of savings. This one was 12 grand. Let's go to Glen Drive, 14 grand. Let's go to just between those two, that's about 30 racks saved. $30,000 saved by way of utilizing this, right? And again, this is what it comes down to in the game of short-term rentals. Understanding your arsenal of software stacks to be able to determine what is going to save you money and maximize your efficiency. Not all of these are about operations and efficiency. Some of them are about max profitability, such as driving revenue, right? This is going to be a software that specifically helps you and key in on indicators that allow you to take the max amount of money that's on the table. Operations allows you to know your costs, know your expenses. In a game of STR, some of you guys would actually be more profitable as a long-term instead of a short-term. You just don't know that because you aren't tracking your expenses. You don't know actually how much it takes to run an STR. So although you made $5,000 gross, some of you don't track well your expenses. You're actually burning 50% of that on expenses and overhead. So you're really only making $2,500 when long-term is $3,000, right? These are things that these type of softwares help you key in to answer some of those questions. Being able to save your time, right? Being able to schedule certain things so you can increase your guest experience by way of them getting automated messages to their most frequently asked questions, right? And then also on top of that, being able to have the right affiliates to make sure that I am working with the people that are going to save me the most amount of money, right? So that is my software stack, guys. Price Labs, Breezeway, Hospitable, Minoan. These are all of the software stacks that I use for different reasons. And a lot of these are different than PMSs. I didn't want to go over PMS because obviously there's a million PMSs. Guesty, Hospitable is actually a PMS. What's the other one that people use? Hostaway, right? There's a ton of them. But I wanted to go over more niche software stacks or affiliates that we use to make sure that we are maximizing profitability and efficiency. So, guys, this is all I had for you. Again, if you're watching this right now and you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. I and my team are always available to help you guys maximize yours. I want to be very clear. What I shared with you guys today is legitimately things that I learned over the course of a handful of different masterminds, paid mentorships. This is real, these are real eggs. These are real golden eggs, like nuggets that I'm giving you guys. It's really just a matter of you guys optimizing and keying in on them and executing. And that's really my entire goal with all of this, is to make sure that we are giving real nuggets to make sure that we're giving back to this community, right? I hope you guys took value from it. You can always reach out to me. You can always reach out to John Davis, to Kyle Stanley. If you guys have any further questions on how you can benefit from these resources or how to use them, we're always happy to help. Until next time, guys, we'll see you guys next week on the call. Please let me know if you guys have any questions. Don't be a stranger. It's why we have these calls. Appreciate everybody.